Update on the bricks.
Whenever I ask
Oh.
people who were some of the best wrestlers that ever come into MMA,
I was a fat kid. I read a lot of books. Once the braces came off and I was able to run and play with the kids, I started kind of doing my own thing.
As a kid, he often found himself in street fights.
Because I was out doing stupid shit, running the streets, thinking I was the man.
When you don't have money, you fight. You learn how to do a lot of things.
I've got brothers and sisters that are in jail, drug addicts, almost all of them. And I'm just thankful to God that he gave me the presence to have people around me with a strong man.
Liked him, and we never talked. I had no clue, but he thought there was a big problem, racist or something like that. He thought we were gonna have to fight. And then we're in the weight room and he walks by me. I said, yeah, you wanna lift with me today? And he's like, what? That was the day. And we busted it out. I said, you can lift with me every day if you want. And he ran home and told his mom he likes me. Yeah, I coached his ass. I turned him into the monster, man.
By his senior year, 1989, he won the Ohio State Wrestling Championship and finished his prep career with an impressive
Frank uploaded new shorts. We can watch that later.
122-11 record. These achievements laid the foundation for his move into...
And I said, who?
Boring video. New gonorrhea.
KC is a 24-year-old woman presenting to the emergency room with nuchal rigidity. Nuchal referring to neck, rigidity meaning stiffness. The back of her neck was stiff. She was wearing sunglasses, and when doctors took them off of her face, she vomited all over the floor because she was so sensitive to light. This photophobia, phobia meaning aversion to photo, Greek for light, combined with nuchal rigidity means something horrible is happening near her brain. 5 days earlier, Casey tried to put on a shirt. Suddenly, her right thumb shot a sharp pain through to her elbow. At first, she thought maybe she just moved funny. She tried to shake it off, but the hurt wouldn't go away, and then her left knee started throbbing. It was getting hard for her to walk. She got a sore throat, and then she couldn't bear to see any light. While telling doctors this, she started getting confused. Her words seemed nonsensical. She kept repeating the words boyfriend, clap, and cheeks. Older medical staff glazed right over this, noting that her thinking was tangential, but the younger resident immediately raised an eyebrow. He tried asking her for more information, but he couldn't get a coherent response. Casey has a fever, her blood pressure and her heart rate are high. A blood test finds she has leukocytosis. Osis meaning disorder, cyto meaning cell, and leuko meaning white. White blood cell disorder. In this case, she has many more white blood cells than normal. Fever, stiff neck, photophobia. It looks like an infection is happening in her nervous system. Doctors can quickly confirm. The brain and the spinal cord are surrounded by a liquid that cushions and protects it called cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. A needle pierces into her back. CSF flowed out. Doctors collect it, and it's here where they see that it was yellow, hazy, and cloudy. It's not supposed to look like that. In the lab, Casey's CSF was found to have protein and low sugar floating around. These aren't supposed to be in here. Metabolism creates wastes, uses proteins and sugars. Whatever's in her CSF is eating, sleeping, reproducing, and making waste. This strongly suggests bacterial meningitis. Itis meaning inflammation of the meninges, a thin layer that covers and protects the brain and the spinal cord. But there's a problem. The point of the meninges is to provide a barrier for the brain from the rest of the body. When it gets inflamed, it's still protecting the brain, so people with meningitis are still lucid. They don't have brain problems, but Casey's confused. She can't speak properly. She can't tell where she is. She's mumbling some boyfriend somewhere is clapping some cheeks, whatever that means, meaning that she has brain problems. This isn't a normal infection. It's gotten through to her brain. This is meningoencephalitis. Hey, quick question. If you're learning something from this video, encephalitis your time. No A to check, because I do actually like making videos, and I hope you learn from and enjoy them too. Encephalitis differs from meningitis in the fact that the brain is inflamed with the meninges. Encephal refers to the brain. For some reason, Casey's meninges couldn't protect her brain from the rest of her body. Whatever is causing the infection has gotten through. It's spilled into her brain. But even worse, 60% of the time, the causative agent of meningoencephalitis can't be identified. CSF is easy to collect, but if testing it doesn't return anything positive, there isn't an easy way to collect part of the brain to test, meaning that doctors could be operating completely in the dark. When Casey's CSF was put in a petri dish, no bacteria grew. Viral DNA was tested for, nothing was found. These tests take days. If she has a worsening infection, you don't have days to wait because whatever's in her brain and her meninges are growing and multiplying. Just because the known tests didn't return anything might only mean that her infection is something unknown. Luckily, doctors could still do something. Casey was started on 2 antibiotics, an antiviral medicine and a steroid to limit inflammation. Based on everything that doctors know, at least one of these should at least hold the infection at bay. If the tests aren't returning anything positive, it doesn't mean that there aren't any bacteria or viruses in her nervous system. Rather, it could mean that they aren't looking for the right ones. They can discontinue all other antimicrobial medicines when they figure out what's infecting her. But with everything testing negative, it looks like they're at a dead end, except someone wanted to try something. A few weeks earlier, JW, a 66-year-old woman, presented to the emergency room with stiffness, swelling, and a pain in her right thumb and both ankles. 10 days earlier, she was feeling fine until suddenly, when she was baking cookies for her grandkids, her hands felt like they were on fire. It was a pain that radiated up from her thumbs to her elbows. At first, she thought she could shake it off. Maybe the hurt was just in her mind. But as the days went on, the pain only got worse. When she went to see a doctor about this, x-rays were totally normal. Nothing looked wrong. She tried to convince herself everything was fine, but nothing was fine. 4 days later, which is 6 days before she presented to the emergency room, the same feeling, burning, in her thumb started pulsating into her ankles. The hurt would shoot up towards her knees. Her primary care doctor thought that this was arthritis, inflammation of the joints. Steroids were given to her. These blunt the immune system, limit inflammation, and should reduce some of the pain that she's experiencing. But they didn't work. And when she went to this hospital, this resident took care of her, but in the process, he found out something horrible. Arthritis in a 66-year-old woman isn't out of the ordinary, but JW's joint pain was sudden onset, rapidly progressive, and completely refractory to treatment. This isn't normal. Regular arthritis isn't this quick, it isn't this severe. Something changed in her body in those few days. Something that happens this quickly is infection. Virus and bacteria can get into the joints, causing swelling, causing pain. But what infection? The resident ordered tests. Hepatitis is a virus that damages the liver, but it can cause arthritis. Negative.
Anybody upset me today? No. I was basically just chilling all day.
Lyme disease is an infection from a spiral-shaped bacteria named Borrelia burgdorferi, transmitted by tick bite that can also do it too. Also negative. All other known bacteria, negative, except at the bottom of his list was one final bacteria. There were 2 reasons why he didn't order tests for it. First, this kind of infection transmits human to human by physical contact. It's not severe when treated early.
Wow, VG, did you heard magnitude 7.1, a 7.5 and 6.3 earthquakes hit Venezuela today?
That's pretty crazy. Huh. Well, Venezuela ain't doing so hot. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
It almost never spreads throughout the body, but it can infect the joints when it does. Second, from a social convention standpoint, the resident felt awkward asking about this particular infection because the physical contact required for this infection can be daunting for a young medical trainee to inquire about in a 66-year-old grandmother with an established social history of being in a thought-to-be monogamous marriage. This bacteria is the one responsible for gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is from intimate human contact involving the bacteria Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Typically, infection and most of its symptoms are at the site of contact. There's a few different sites, but sometimes the infection becomes disseminated. The bacteria escapes the inoculation site and infects the person systemically. It gets into the joints and forces extreme inflammation. Steroids won't help because physically there's something growing on the bones. This is what was happening to JW. Her gonorrhea was confirmed by lab test, and recent intimate contact was discussed and confirmed. But in very rare cases, Neisseria gonorrhoeae gets into the brain and the meninges, bringing us back to case C. The resident remembered JW's case from just a few weeks earlier because KC had also described a sudden onset intense joint pain while she was still lucid. If gonorrhea is a communicable disease that's appeared in the area recently because another patient just came in with it, and Casey's meningoencephalitis could be caused by it while she's tested negative for everything else but this, then is it possible that gonorrhea is in her brain? The remaining CSF was tested different from what was already done, and it turns out Neisseria gonorrhoeae is in her brain. It's in her meninges. It's inflaming her nervous system and her joints. Gonorrhea has spread everywhere in her body. KC has gonococcal meningoencephalitis. In a brief moment of clarity after the 4 medicines were started, KC told doctors what she meant when she said the words boyfriend and clap. 1 month earlier, Casey's boyfriend had contracted chlamydia from an encounter outside of their relationship. He told Casey about this because they had intimate contact after he got that infection and before he was diagnosed. And when he got diagnosed, he did the right thing and told her. Casey received partner treatment with azithromycin. Sometime after receiving this antibiotic, which was around 7 to 10 days before she presented to the emergency room, Casey had intimate contact with this boyfriend again. But by then, this boyfriend had contracted gonorrhea from yet another encounter.
Dude, is this chick, like, out of her mind stupid? Hey, sweetie, sorry, but I gave you gonorrhea. Stays with him and has sex with him again? Like... Oh my god, people are dumb.
Outside of their relationship. This tells us how she got it and who she got it from, but it doesn't explain why KC and JW's gonorrhea spread throughout their bodies. But public health officials would learn something about this gonorrhea that they didn't know before. When doctors found Casey's disseminated gonococcal infection, they reported her case to the Michigan Disease Surveillance System. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services took note because this was part of an ongoing problem in this region. 2 years earlier, in 2019, Kalamazoo County Health and Community Services Department was notified of 3 patients hospitalized for disseminated gonococcal infection. 2 had septic arthritis, another had gonorrhea growing in their heart. Neisseria gonorrhoeae doesn't spread further than the site of infection typically, but 3 disseminated cases happening at once in the same area means that a new strain with the ability to spread around the body is in active circulation. Kalamazoo County Health and Community Services Department and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services opened an investigation. When they looked at the reports, they found 27,000 cases of gonorrhea had been reported in Michigan in the 18 months prior. Zooming in, they found that in the 4 months prior to August 2019, 16 cases of disseminated gonococcal...
I don't know how many people died, but this may put those earthquakes in China to shame.
A 7.1 magnitude earthquake rocking Venezuela and separate quakes reported in California and Japan. I want to show you some of the video. We are just now getting into it. These chaotic moments on the streets of Caracas, dust filling the air after the capital there in Venezuela felt that intense shaking. You see people walking around, some of them looking confused. A baseball game coming to a halt, people running.
You really don't want to inhale pulverized concrete. Very, very bad for you. And a lot of building materials also contain asbestos. So if you're ever in a situation like an earthquake or a natural disaster or like, I don't know, warfare where a building gets bombed and there's like dust everywhere, make sure to cover your mouth. Ideally have like a respirator, but yeah, try to not breathe that in.
Running for safety. You see the light fixture up there swaying? People running for safety to the center of the field. Just hours before that, we saw a 5.6 quake hitting Northern California, knocking shelves of food to the ground. We're also following a 6.9 quake in Japan with tsunami advisories in effect there. There's a lot going on, lot to watch. We've got Bill Karen standing by. But I want to start with Aaron Gilchrist joining us now because it seems that the most significant of these is the one that just happened late today in Venezuela. Aaron, what do we know about the possibility of any injuries, about how people are doing there?
Yeah, less than an hour ago this happened, Hallie, and at this point there aren't any reports about any serious injuries or any major damage having happened here, but obviously a 7.1 magnitude earthquake is a major earthquake, and this was one that happened a little after 6 o'clock Eastern time, apparently in the northwestern part of Venezuela, so putting it very much near the coast of Venezuela. Saying this video that we're seeing now out of the Caracas area, which is more than 100 miles away from where we believe the epicenter of this earthquake.
Yeah, Venezuela's down bad.
Maturing is becoming like Durian Rider. Taking steroids, shaving your head and fucking tight Asian pussy. Now you're getting it, bro.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the donation. Yeah, that doesn't look great. Dodo Natellers, could you imagine being in this building? What would you be thinking? I'd probably think at first there's like some construction or something going on, and then I'd probably realize like after a second or two that it's an earthquake. I've experienced earthquakes. They're like very, very weak earthquakes here. Like, I've probably been through 3 or 4, I think. I remember there was one where it wasn't, it didn't feel that, like, that strong. Like, the whole, you felt shaking and everything. But, like, it was over after, like, 10 seconds. But somebody who lived in an apartment that I knew, his bed moved from one end of his room to the other. Because, like, he's in a tall building. Earthquake of this magnitude in a country where infrastructure is being modernized for decades and under an inept, not being modernized, inept, corrupt dictatorship. Yep. Not great. A lot of people are going to be trapped under rubble. The hotel completely collapsed. Yep. That's what socialism gets you. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Infection had been reported in southwest Michigan, 14 in the same city. When they contacted these patients, they asked if any of these 16 patients had had contact with one another. They might have, but they didn't know or name each other specifically. No social connections were found among any of them, but genome sequencing of the Neisseria gonorrhoeae told another story. In the lab, they tested samples from 11 of the patients and found that the Neisseria gonorrhoeae bacteria were all identical. Just a handful of changes were observed throughout the entire bacterial genome coming from each patient. It's unclear how these patients didn't know each other, or if they did have contact with one another, they may not have been aware of the exact other individual during the contact in whatever capacity. One possibility is that several more people were infected with this strain, but they didn't get disseminated infection, or if they did get infected, maybe they didn't seek care, so it wasn't reported. Women sometimes don't show symptoms of gonococcal infection, so they don't even know if they have it if disseminated infection doesn't emerge. But what is known is that Casey and JW's case appearing 2 years after this infection cluster was described means that this particular Neisseria gonorrhoeae strain was still circulating in the area. CDC was contacted for help and more information was discovered. When gonorrhea is diagnosed, it has to be reported to public health agencies. We know 600,000 gonorrhea cases were reported in the United States in 2023. We know it's been increasing since 2009, just like other similarly transmitted infections. But public health agencies have also been tracking and documenting the new strains that keep emerging. Everything shows that Neisseria gonorrhoeae is evolving in dangerous ways. In the 1930s, scientists were researching chemicals that could serve as antibiotics. They paid close attention to a color dye that was patented in the early 1900s and found that it was able to destroy certain bacterial species, one of which was Neisseria gonorrhoeae. This medicine was called.
Now someone explain that to Mamdoni that under so-called ASM and rent-stabilized Buickdings the developers don't make enough money to redevelop old properties or develop new properties that are up to standards with earthquake safety and whatnot.
I don't think you'll listen. Thanks for the donation though, Dodo.
Sulfanilamide, and it worked.
There's really nothing wrong with not maturing because, according to most people, maturing means no longer watching cartoons.
Yeah, true. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Dodo, $22. Yeah, retarded.
Who isn't bought by APAC. I'm also the only Muslim in my family. I reverted 3 years ago. Actually, the friend who pushed me to do it asked me, why have you fasted for 4 years and yet you haven't taken your shahada? She's here today, and when she asked me that, I thought, that is a great question. And I thought for myself, why I asked this. That really pushed me.
She won with young voters and high-income voters, majority college-educated. That should tell you exactly what's going on. So there's just rich college kids that are just getting indoctrinated into communist ideology when they go to these fucking schools. That is nuts. Jesus fucking Christ. Can you go see if Destiny's on Discord? I have no interest in talking to him anymore, dude. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Patients with gonorrhea successfully treated their infection with the medicine, but over a few years, doctors started noticing that the infection would persist after ever-increasing doses of sulfanilamide. Neisseria gonorrhoeae makes vitamin B9, folic acid, to produce DNA so that it can reproduce. The bacteria makes a chemical called para-aminobenzoic acid, PABA, to tell its machinery, hey, it's time to reproduce, so I need some folic acid. Sulfanilamide looks like PABA. When sulfanilamide gets into the bacteria, it screws up the machinery so that folic acid isn't made. Then DNA isn't made, and Neisseria gonorrhoeae doesn't reproduce. The problem is, Neisseria gonorrhoeae started noticing that something was getting in the way of its folic acid production. In response, it started making insane amounts of PABA to drown out sulfanilamide, rendering it useless. And then it started producing new strains who would do this by default, meaning Neisseria gonorrhoeae successfully evolved sulfanilamide antibiotic resistant. No safe.
Seriously, just how insane are these people?
Completely and utterly unhinged, dude. And they're all college kids. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
I'm more convinced that the communist indoctrination of college students happens from them being in certain friend groups and wanting to fit in, and they all watch TikTok. Not primarily because professors are teaching them communist ideology.
No, it's from the professors. That's the only way to explain why multiple generations of these kids are going through this horse shit. So no, it's the professors and the university systems that are doing that. Thanks for the donation, Sid.
Safe amount of that medicine would ever work again to treat this infection in humans. But this was perfect timing. This happened in the 1940s and penicillin had just started to become mass produced. If sulfanilamide doesn't work anymore for gonorrhea, that's no problem. Let's use penicillin. And this worked really well. A dose of 50,000 units was extremely effective, but as the years went on, gonorrhea patients required 200,000 units to clear the infection. 30 years later, by 1972, the known regular dose was 4.8 million units. And in 1976, something horrible was discovered. A 25-year-old man at an Air Force base in California had just returned from the Philippines. He complained of dysuria, trouble urinating.
Bangus Noniteller is co-powered feminists. The Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, 56%. Everyone's saying it's absolute garbage. I think that's probably being generous. Oh.
You know what happened to college giving its students a bright future?
Yeah, it's just not happening anymore. And everyone's just retarded. You know what? I wonder.
Somebody paid this Asian chick for this sickening shout out.
I'll take a look at that in a minute. Thanks for the donation, dude. Oh. Got scared. Oh. Oh my goodness, possums. Oh yes. Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Look at his toes. Oh my god, that's good. Oh, I love possums. Oh, they are so good. I love these guys. Look at them.
Little one in the shadows.
Wow, they are so good. That is so nice.
It's really crazy how ineffective destiny is. Those primary candidates each only got about 20-40k votes and yet they won, in districts each with 770k people. It doesn't take much to get a communist elected, I guess. Hassan and Mamdani caused this.
Yep. Just fucking retarded. They're gonna get exactly, well, I guess these are mostly rich kids, right? So, like, the people who voted for them probably aren't gonna really suffer the consequences, but, yeah, all the poor people they claim to care about, yeah, they're gonna get fucked over. Thanks for the donation, Sid.
É, correndo tudo atrás de mim agora, né?
Wow.
Eu indo embora, ó. Decida abrir tudo atrás de mim
Oh
aí,
my
ó.
god, those monkeys are following them.
Tá vendo? Eita, filho da beleza.
Look at those little monkeys. Oh. Oh. Prairie dog and a kitty friend. That's so nice. Thanks for the donation, Bangus.
Shout out to Big Lenny from the Dairy Misfits. He's the Tom Plus of apps and is going to be the only 700 Alps wrapped bodybuilder at the Ruby Classic. Leonard has no need to clean his apartment because the only thing his time gets spent on is eating, sleeping, and growing. Nobody else can inject 2,400 milligrams of test per week and swallow 150 milligrams of dianarbol daily without dying. Lenny is 18 forever and the biggest freak on the entire planet. Cookie cutters hate him because they can't handle the truth and hide behind their shoe collections like Jay Cutler. What do you think about that, Dale? Shout out to
Alright, that's nice. Thanks for the donation, nigga.
And a funny-looking, painful discharge that would emerge from between his legs. Urethral smears revealed Neisseria gonorrhoeae. 4.8 million units of penicillin were administered to him, but a week later.
Which means hopefully they will never get a job and they will starve to death in the street.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
His problems got worse. Doctors tried a different antibiotic, but it didn't work either. 2 weeks later, infection still raging. Doctors tried 4.8 million units of penicillin again, and it still didn't work. Repeat urethral swabs revealed Neisseria gonorrhoeae was still there. When they finally gave him a different antibiotic of last resort, his infection was cured. But why didn't penicillin work? Gonococcal samples that were collected from this man were sent to CDC. They tried some tests. No results returned anything insightful, but scientists had an idea. Penicillin chemical has one unique structure. This is called a beta-lactam ring. This is the part that destroys bacteria. Scientists attached other chemicals to a beta-lactam ring. If bacteria does something to it, the attached chemicals will force a color change. And we can see this, and we'll know that something has happened. And when they poured this into a sample containing Neisseria gonorrhoeae, grown from this man, the color changed, meaning this man's bacteria was doing something that it had never been seen to do before. We used penicillin to treat gonorrhea from the 1940s to the 1970s. It worked, but Neisseria gonorrhoeae bacteria had been slowly learning how to resist and survive penicillin. That's why the dose needed to clear infection increased from 50,000 units to 4.8 million. But in 1976, the bacteria finally refined its evolution and gained a new ability. In the scientist's test, cleavage of the beta-lactam ring forced a color change. This told doctors that the bacteria collected from this man's gonorrhea evolved the ability to destroy penicillin in a way like never before. Specifically, it developed the ability to create an enzyme that breaks the beta-lactam ring that enables penicillin to kill bacteria, completely disabling the antibiotic. And in just a few years after this was first observed, almost all known gonorrhea cases were totally resistant to penicillin. It would never be used again. But it wasn't finished here. Another antibiotic class called a tetracycline was being used for gonorrhea since the 1950s. Slowly, as the decades passed, scientists were observing that Neisseria gonorrhoeae had evolved an ability to change its protein shapes so that it removes tetracycline, rendering it completely useless by 1986. Even worse, scientists found that the bacteria...
Dodo, donate $2.
Are going to
Oh,
leave our
this
state.
stupid bitch.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if you know the ones that leave, like bye.
Yeah, this is the bitch who defunded the police, and she massively increased crime in her city. Genius.
While ultra popular, it is not an official anthem of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The real one doesn't have lyrics. Viewers often think the players are staging a political protest, but the truth is that the anthem doesn't have words. Why not? Politics. Following the 1990s war, the country's complicated government, divided between ethnic Croats, Bosniak and Serbs, couldn't agree on a single melody. So in 1999, the High Representative of the international community imposed a law adopting Dušan Šestić's music called Intermezzo. 10 years later, they tried to add words. The public submitted 339 lyric proposals. None was adopted in the end. But Bosnia isn't alone. Europe's youngest country, Kosovo, also plays on mute. When Kosovo declared independence in 2000,
I believe this is the future of collage kids at the 10.30 mark.
I'll take a look at that in a minute. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Allowed. Let's go take a look inside. First thing you're going to see as you come in is this beautiful portrait of the dear leaders of North Korea. Here's the gift shop, which we'll do a little walk by. She may not like this, so I'm going to keep this low. And just this way. Here's the little bit inside here. Dark halls, rather. Not cold. You go to the monuments.
Yeah, Katie Wilson. This is what they do. And, like, look at how she's getting stared at. Like, these lefties are just fucking retarded, dude. They're just the most degenerate scumbags. They don't even like Muslims. This is all just some, like, dumb shit where they're pro-immigration so that they get in a bunch of degenerate scumbags who will just vote for them, and then they cuck to these just deranged lunatics. Wow, VG, read this carefully. Brad Lander, Jewish guy running the Congress, New York 10, got endorsed by Mayor Zoran Mamdani along with Claire. But on primary day today, Mamdani's wife posted on Instagram telling people to vote for Valdez Chevier and completely left out Lander. My best guess is that it's because he's Jewish and she hates Jews, obviously. But to be so public with your hate, yeah. No shit. Too bad they can't get caught in an earthquake and have a building fall down on them.
Ride on the magic school bus. No, are you?
Okay, I can't watch full. Oh, 10:30.
I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm prepared.
Phoebe, we've been looking and we haven't found any more animals.
None, Phoebe, and I'm burning up. Me too. You're hot. What about that poor little jackrabbit? See, it's sitting there with the sun beating down on its head, and it's wearing a fur. Got that covered. Thanks, Arnold.
Okay. $2 Mamdani endorsed this man over Dan Goldman because he is anti-Israel and a self-loathing Jew, but Mamdani's wife couldn't bring herself to say vote for him even though he is self-loathing. Yep. Well, no shit.
I believe.
It's not about anti-Zionism, it's just about hating Jews, period.
As a proud Jewish New Yorker, that Israel's genocide in Gaza is a desecration, is a
You can just hear that this guy is a fucking weaselly faggot.
violation of the understanding that everyone is created in God's image, every one of those Palestinian kids. And so I believe we can build a mud.
Dude, what a pathetic retard. And he spoke at a mosque. Oh my god. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. 21st Savage, $22.
Nobody wanna see us together.
Okay, that's nice. Thanks for the donation, 21st Savage.
Could transfer that mutated gene to strains that didn't have the gene, but it would only get worse. A class of antibiotics known as fluoroquinolones were used for gonorrhea starting in the mid-1980s. These can be pretty strong medicines with side effects sometimes not seen with other antibiotics, but not even 10 years in, the dose needed to treat gonorrhea doubled. Because our technology had advanced in the 1990s, we started observing that Neisseria gonorrhoeae is able to take DNA from its surroundings and incorporate those genes into its own genome. And by the 2000s, enough genes were picked up by all gonorrhea strains to confer resistance to fluoroquinolones. We still had options at this point. Azithromycin, the antibiotic known as Z-Pak, when one gets a cough or a sore throat. It was effective for gonococcal infections in the 1990s. But then, when the dose required to treat infection dramatically increased, scientists started noticing Neisseria gonorrhoeae had developed a mutation where it could actively spit out azithromycin from its insides so that the antibiotic couldn't contact any intracellular machinery. And Neisseria gonorrhoeae had evolved a backup plan because that cellular machinery azithromycin would have broken had been mutated to resist the antibiotic, leaving us currently with just one final antibiotic to treat gonorrhea. But these mutations are just for antibiotic resistance. Other mutations can enable the bacteria to do unimaginable things, bringing us back to KC and JW's case. CDC had been collecting and cataloging Neisseria.
I don't think you got the joke I was making, VG. That line is I'm hot, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm prepared. With a vulture flying overhead, waiting to eat him was the future of college kids. I was referring to, get it.
That wasn't obvious. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Gonorrhoeae strains for decades. When they analyzed the bacterial genomes from the 2019 Michigan disseminated gonococcal infection cluster, they found out it was descended from an earlier known strain that only caused symptoms at the site of infection. When they looked closer, they found that of all the gonorrhea strains circulating at that time, this particular strain formed two distinct groups of descendants. One group featured random mutations, nothing important, but the other had one particular gene mutation called the PORB1A gene. This created a version of a protein that sits on the outer surface of the bacteria. We wouldn't have known what that does, except all the gonorrhea collected from the 2019 Michigan disseminated gonococcal patients were from this family, meaning this mutation enables the gonorrhea to spread all over the body, causing septic arthritis in JW's case and meningitis in Casey's case. 2 years after the cluster report, this mutated gonorrhea was still circulating around in southwest Michigan, and it was what had infected both patients. Back in the hospital, one of the antibiotics that Casey was started on before doctors had figured out what her infection was, luckily, was the one that works on Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Other medicines were stopped. She was continued on this ceftriaxone. Over days, her condition started improving. Scientists have had more time to investigate this particular gonorrhea strain since the 2019 Southwest Michigan cluster. Since 2023, gonorrhea cases have decreased in the state, and good news is that it appears that this strain hasn't been in circulation since then. Recent studies have found that the particular mutation that it featured conferred a 20 times greater risk of disseminated gonococcal infection than other known strains at the time, meaning something about it caused the bacteria to break out from the infection site and float around in the body. And this is what happened to KC. The nature of the contact she had with her boyfriend after he contracted gonorrhea from an encounter outside of their relationship explains it. The oral cavity and its physical connection to the sinonasal cavity has proximity to the meninges and the brain. And coupled with the fact that the transmitted gonorrhoeae strain has a mutation that enables it to traverse in and out of human cells to infect all kinds of tissue, it means that Casey may have gotten the gonococcal meningitis through an unfortunate series of events. Interestingly, her boyfriend didn't appear to have a disseminated gonococcal infection despite Casey getting it, although he may have gotten treatment earlier because the symptoms do show up quicker and more commonly in men. There was one final observation that was noted in the 2019 Southwest Michigan cluster. The PORB1A allele that allowed it to break out and infect the whole body did not enable antibiotic resistance. So for now, this mutation by itself is a survival dead end. It's currently unclear if the PORB1A mutation forces the bacteria to be ceftriaxone susceptible, or if it's only a matter of time for gonorrhea to evolve ceftriaxone resistance with the enhanced ability to disseminate into the human body, creating a real multi-drug resistant super gonorrhea. But at least for now, we still have some time to find the next antibiotic for Neisseria gonorrhoeae strains that will emerge in the future, after the right antibiotic treatment discovered by a diligent resident who
never, and I mean never, flush your poop. And don't wipe. Just stop it. What kind of libtard Nancy boy are you wiping away that sticky brown gold? Reach down with those thick chocolate fingers and lather up some mucky ass pudding. Taste it. Share it.
I don't think so. Thanks for the donation. Save your poop, save the world.
Who paid attention to recent cases that he had seen, KC was able to make a full recovery. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself and be well.
Yeah, he doesn't have any nice shorts.
Mark Carney just got caught.
If you succeed, you get rewarded, but if you fail, your institution fails. I'm saying no bailouts. Mark Carney, 2011. 15 years later, Carney wants to bail out home builders who failed. Yeah.
Lying again. Surprise.
The guy's a corrupt fuckwit. He's just a complete asshole. And I love how this guy ran on a campaign. Oh, I'm an economic expert. I'm going to make Canada rich and shit. This guy is, like, cannot run a fucking country. And he has, like, other weird personal and business interests. Like that just make him fucking corrupt. Why is he giving fucking, these property developers bailouts?
Leave the music on.
Well, I can't. We already watched the first one. Like, unless you want the stream to get taken down and stupid shit. Oh, she's doing that dumb cupping crap. My god, that literally does nothing. It's a weird way to put on sunscreen. Mark Carney is giving property developers a bailout because they kept raising the price on properties, and they even gave people refunds on deposits they took down because they'd be able to sell to new people for a higher price than honor their deposits. They were doing super shady fucking shit. And then when the ceiling fell in on the housing market and these properties just aren't at the value that these developers thought they were at, they haven't been able to sell units, and they're saying, oh, we're losing money. Mark Carney's just giving them a fucking bailout, free money. And then he's claiming he's going to convert it to affordable housing. Well, one, he hasn't actually explained what that even fucking means, because these condo units are like $1 million, so... Is he going to sell it for like $950,000? Like, what does it mean? What's going to happen? And secondly, this is just being added to the debt. So, essentially, what's going on is he's fucking over home buyers like in at least three different ways. One, if you're waiting to buy a home for prices to come down, well, now you're fucked because these property developers are getting a bailout, and it's maintaining the what this does is it keeps these property values elevated because now, well, these developers can sell these units at whatever fucking price they want, and they know if they can't, they're just going to get a bailout from the fucking government. So it's maintaining that high floor on housing prices. Secondly, now property developers are just going to be that much more incentivized to keep these housing prices high because, again, they know they're going to get a bailout. And third, this is being added to the debt, so you're going to have to pay for this fucking horseshit through your taxes. Your taxes are paying to give money to fucking property developers that were making ridiculous amounts of money in this like post-COVID boom thing. Like, it's fucking insane. This guy is a corrupt asshole, and I can't fucking believe he still has a high approval rating.
What happens if you can only afford half a haircut? This is what happens. This is what happens. You're so broke and can only afford half a haircut. What happens if you can only afford half a haircut?
Yeah, he's pretty weird. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Surprised, am I right? Now, this interview that he did with George, I'm not going to pretend I know how to say his last name, but he had an interview. So, as
you'll go out of business. You run a large bank, you have to be rescued because you'll have such bigger impacts on the rest of the system. That doesn't make sense. And so there's a variety of...
This asshole is deliberately trying to maintain this ridiculously stupid high cost of housing. Absolutely everything the liberal government is doing is trying to maintain as high a cost of housing as fucking possible. Despite saying, oh yeah, we're going to lower housing costs. Oh, we're going to build. Like literally 3 months after this guy got elected, his housing minister said, we're not going to reduce the cost of housing. So like they just blatantly, openly lied about their campaign promises. They've admitted they're not getting anywhere close to their home building targets, and that's by fucking design. And they haven't like made changes when it comes to like development costs, taxes when it comes to home building, like crap like that. And then sure enough, when property developers are trying to sell units for a ridiculously inflated price, and they can't sell them because the market won't bear that. And then finally, oh, our housing price is going to come down now? Are developers going to learn that they can't sell like units at prices like this? No, there's Carney giving them a fucking bailout to maintain that ridiculously high price floor.
Things that are being put in place, being designed so that banking can be like any other business. If you succeed, you get rewarded, but if you fail, your institution fails, and the rest of the economy continues to go on.
So you're saying no bailout?
Did you hear an ISIS rape survivor was prohibited from sharing her story because it would offend Canadian Muslims? I heard something like that. Was that in Canada or the UK or what? I heard a story similar to that. There might have been something similar that happened in the UK. I didn't know that happened in Canada.
I'm saying no bailouts. That's the objective.
Whoa, I'm saying no bailouts. Until I get to be Prime Minister of Canada, then I'm going to financial tools. Yep. That's Mark Carney's corporate speak for bailing out developers with your money for the reckless decisions that they made. Stop the Carney condo bailout.
We're going to leverage innovative financing tools from Build Canada Homes to convert thousands of vacant condos.
What innovative financial tools? It sounds like magic. And normally the innovative financial tool to turn an overpriced empty condo into an affordable home is for the price to drop until someone can afford.
Again, that's the plan. It's to not have the price drop. That's why the bailout exists. It's to maintain the price floor.
Afford to buy or rent it. So why not just let that happen? Well, Mr. Carney answered that question. He said because the developers do not want to lose money.
Developers are stuck.
I don't want to lose money, so why the fuck are you adding this to the national debt so that I have to pay for this shit through my fucking taxes?
They don't want to sell at a loss. They can't afford to hold those empty units indefinitely.
All right, they took a risk. They decided they wanted to build those condos at a time that we were in a housing bubble, but now they're selling those homes at a time when the housing bubble has burst. So the risk did not pay off, and they would lose money.
It happened in a Toronto school. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, now that jogs my memory. Yep. This is what you get with a liberal government. It's just massive open immigration, and they know these degenerate scumbags that they're letting in. They need their votes, so they just cuck to these radical Islamists and jihadists and shit. Like, the same thing happened in the UK. It's fucking insane.
Well, who's going to pay the difference? Well, Mark Carney wants you, the taxpayer, who's struggling with mortgage payments, grocery bills, and high gas prices, to pay those losses instead of the developers who took the risk in the first place. He wants to privatize the profit and socialize the losses. In other words,
yeah, exactly. So they're able to make as much profit as they want, but as soon as they lose money, oh, they get the money back. Like, if only it worked that way for you, right? Don't you wish you could, like, start a business and take financial risk? And then if it doesn't work out, the government just pays you back?
You know why movies are still doing this woke shit when they know it's losing them money?
Yeah, they're just radical whack jobs. It's ideological. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Make you pay the price. It is a transfer of wealth from the have-nots to the have-yachts.
He's exactly.
Oh, and what do you hear from the mainstream media? Maple MAGA. Oh, the conservatives don't know how to do any financial regulation. They're going to destroy the economy. Oh, they're friends with Trump. Like, it's just retarded. The mainstream media in Canada. Well, we found this out recently with the Montreal shooting. They're all commies.
And liberals say they aren't corrupt.
Yeah, they are the most corrupt political party in fucking Canada. I can guarantee you that. Like, we've never got an opportunity to see what the NDP would do. I can guarantee you they're probably worse. But, yeah, the Liberal government, out of the two serious parties, they're the most corrupt. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
You're right. And I know people, oh, we don't like Pierre's slogans. Yeah, I know. You don't like Pierre's slogans, but you do like elbows up and Canada strong, you know, because you hate slogans so much. But he's absolutely right. There's a massive wealth transfer that's been happening for a long time now.
Dude, I just cannot fucking stand Mark Carney. And what's especially fucked up with this guy, it's not just the normal liberal corruption that we've seen for the last few decades. Like, liberals have been doing this sort of shit for a while, where they basically create these like weird monopolies and wealth transfers and shit. Now they're like moving to full authoritarianism. They've been trying to ram bills through that basically completely violate your constitutional rights and your right to privacy. I don't even know what the fucking motivation is. They've just become like a party of crazy assholes.
It's nothing else, just money. It's only going to feed and help the politicians.
Carney has been excluded. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have Mark Carney's conflicts of interest are so vast and so many that he is being excluded from over a dozen decisions being made in the government. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, I thought we'd start with the Canadian dollar. And what do we see here?
Yeah,
this is a graph going back to 2009.
Canada Strong, remember? That's the Liberals' slogan, Canada Strong. And we've been in a recession for the last 3 months.
The way till today. And let's just look at this big hump here. What era was this? This is the Stephen Harper days. Stephen Harper steps down and Trudeau comes in right here. And what happens? This is the Liberal record here. And we can see Carney gets in here and it has not gone back up. It's only going down. This dovetails with what we see here being posted on this Carney footprint account, showing how many times Mark Carney's flown in the last month. 16 is the number, 38,000 kilometers, 150,000 liters of jet fuel, emitting over 450,000 kilograms of CO2. Here's all his flights: Dublin, Geneva, Ottawa, Vancouver, Nanaimo. What's interesting about this Nanaimo, he didn't announce this. This isn't a part of anything, but he came to Vancouver to do that press conference. I believe his mother is in a care home in Nanaimo. That's why he would be, once again, visiting his mother on the taxpayer dime. Moving ahead, we're bringing back up this Polera data. This is a report that came out a day or two ago, and I showed some of this on the channel, but there's more panels on here I want to showcase. This one, we've got news sources comparing Canada to the United States. Thought this was pretty interesting. It shows television news reports, the top one here, 53% of Canadians versus 47% of Americans. You can see the gap here, plus.
Well, this is because we have more boomers. American boomers have died off sooner. So we have a higher percentage of boomers.
6 for Canada. So more Canadians are watching television news reports versus, well, this other stuff here. We've got radios, 27 versus 18. Print magazines. What's more interesting here is the online stuff. We've got social media, YouTube, 28% for Canada versus 33% for America. So +5. Same thing. Social media, Facebook 28 to 34, Instagram 17 versus 24, TikTok 11 versus 20%. X is 10 versus 14%. And then we've got conversations with family, friends, and coworkers, 30% in Canada versus 25% in America. And when people are watching mainstream media like CBC and then they talk to their friends, that amplifies things. Pretty eye-opening data here. I mean, I'm not surprised. We know that Canadians are very gullible because they got tricked into voting for Mark Carney, and now he's not delivering on any of his promises.
It's the boomers who voted for Mark Carney. We have too many fucking boomers. We need another wave of COVID. Hollywood slop $20. Why does animation look like cheap bargain bin animated slop these days? That's the only way for it to be economically viable.
City needs back.
This isn't really anything worse than what you'd see from a DC animated film, like in the 90s or 2000s. Basically, what's going on is these animation departments, they don't make the money they used to because it's just to do with television contracts. So these television stations, they can't have dead air. They need programs to fill their all their time slots. So what would end up happening is they would get contracts for, like, 60 episode seasons. So they would end up making a lot more money, and a lot more money through like ad revenue too. So now what you're seeing is there's like 12 episode seasons, which is kind of the norm at this point, rather than like 60. And they're not making the ad revenue they used to. So they've been simplifying character design. So if you look at the old X-Men animated series versus the new one, it's not that the animation in the new series is necessarily bad, but they are more simplified, easier to draw character models, and it's just basic economics. They just can't make the money to cover the cost of doing anything better. But this actually looks kind of cool.
We're losing this fight.
Batman Cape Crusader sucks. I tried watching this. It's absolutely god-awful horseshit. Like, this is actually unwatchable trash. Also, this is Frank on an average day. Is he gonna electrocute himself? That couldn't have been the same thing. Yeah, this guy seems sauced. Thanks for the donation, Hollywood Slop.
Promises. Moving ahead, we've got this one from the National Post. This is based off that story I showed yesterday. We've got Terry Newman posting this. Montreal bad guy here was a voluntary communist. This needs to get out there. I showed you those quotes that where he was criticizing Western conservatives. The guy was not a conservative. He was not right-wing.
Only the National Post and the Sun are reporting
Does that
on this
explain the crappy
accurately.
CalArts style in a lot of these crappy cartoons today, like Big City Greens VG?
No, I think this is just a stupid cartoon. I've never even heard of this. Yeah, that just looks like trash. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
He was a far left extremist communist. Of course, he not just 17, at least 17 government deliberations because of corporate conflicts.
Like, by the way, this is why you're seeing all these weird, bizarre decisions by Mark Carney, like giving condo developers a bailout. It's because he has weird corporate conflicts of interest.
Revelation is contained in letters that the Privy Council office sent to parliamentary committee that probed the screens that Carney set up. So it says, according to summary posted online by Parliament's ethics watchdog.
I fucking hate Carney. Oh my god, I hate the Liberal government. Please, just have the fucking boomers die. Like, just make a good, deadly wave of flu virus that will just kill off the boomers. Dodo, $22, watch this. 5 ways U.S. could invade Iran in this. Why Putin's so hard to kill. You can watch those. I'll watch this one first. Do you think the Steam Machine is worth buying? Is it a good PC? Depends on what you mean by that. If you were to make your own custom PC with comparable parts, it would end up being roughly the same cost within like a $50 margin up or down. So you're basically getting what you pay for. It's not like the Steam Machine is getting marked up by any substantive degree. It's just a weak PC. So you're not going to have the kind of fidelity that and frame rate that you're going to get from like a PlayStation 5. But that's because the PlayStation 5 is, 1, optimized to play console games, and 2, it's also heavily, heavily subsidized. Like, they're selling these consoles at a loss, so... if you want a powerful PC, then no, the Steam Machine is not a powerful PC. It's a pretty weak, low-end PC. You're basically getting what's equivalent to, like an RTX 3060, which is the lowest end NVIDIA graphics card that you'd really want to use for modern games. It's not that you can't play like any modern game you want, but you're probably going to be playing at 1080p. You're very likely going to have to be using upscaling even at 1080p, and you're going to be running a lot of games on low to low medium settings. I'm very tired. I don't know why I've been so tired. Fuck. Yeah, I'm looking forward to X-Men 97 Season 2. Looks good. I think I need a drink. I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll be right back.
It's really ironic hearing you talk shit about communism and then you spent about an hour complaining about how boomers make housing more expensive and you wish they'd die off. You're scapegoating. You're broke because you don't work. Communist ideology.
Yeah, it's because the boomers keep voting for the liberal government who are using what are essentially socialist policies to maintain a ridiculously high housing market. They're creating way too many fucking taxes and fees for home building. And again, that's deliberate. They're doing that intentionally to keep housing costs high. And they're giving these developers bailouts when there's just natural market adjustments and these housing prices should come down. No, let's give you a bailout so that there's a high price floor. So no, it's communist fucking horseshit. Thanks for the donation, jackass. Congratulations, you're banned. Don't need to hear just stupid
has a
bullshit
lot of
spamming.
enemies. So how does he protect himself? In this video, we'll look at 4 of the Kremlin's security measures. A rolling fortress, orchestrated chaos in the skies, a ghost train straight out of a James Bond movie, and sophisticated deception tactics. Together, they tell a story about the Russian state and its increasingly paranoid leader. Since 2000, Vladimir Putin has spent most of his time here in Nova Ogaryova. But the Russian president also often stays at this luxury residence in Valdai. And he's believed to own this opulent estate in Crimea, a summer residence in Sochi, and a palace at KP Dokopos. To move between these locations or attend state visits, Putin needs to travel. And that's when he's most vulnerable. He's protected around the clock by both visible and covert security forces. But the Kremlin relies on one thing above all: unpredictability. This is Putin's car, an Oris Senat limousine. The interior is fitted with luxury features: genuine leather, plush seating, and a minibar. But more importantly, it's a fortress on wheels. Imagine this. Putin is on his way to Moscow. Suddenly, a group of attackers opens fire. But the limo is heavily armored, designed to withstand high-caliber rounds and reportedly even armor-piercing ammunition. Their bullets have no effect, so the attackers throw a hand grenade. Even then, the limo stays intact and barrels forward as if nothing happened. The fuel tank is fortified against explosions. The tires are fire-resistant and reinforced. Even if all 4 were destroyed, the car could keep on driving. The limo is incredibly heavy, 6.5 tons, but it's surprisingly fast. It's powered by a 4.4-liter V8 twin-turbo engine supported by a hybrid powertrain. In an emergency, it can accelerate to 100 kilometers an hour in 12 seconds and reach top speeds of up to 170.
That's slow. That is very, very slow.
The cabin has its own air filtration system, so even a gas attack probably wouldn't have an effect. There's an emergency exit, too. Putin's limo is extremely secure, but for longer distances, he prefers another means of transport. Putin is flying to North Korea for a state visit. He's on board an Ilyushin IL-96. The model was developed in the Soviet Union back in the 1980s. Technically, it's considered outdated. The long-haul jet still has 4 engines. But Putin continues to rely on it. His customized version is known as the Flying Kremlin, and it's equipped for maximum comfort. The presidential jet is stocked with a king-size bed, a conference room, a dining area, and a personalized gym. Even at 10,000 meters, security remains the top priority. The Flying Kremlin reportedly has its own advanced communications array, missile defense system, and emergency escape pod. When necessary, it's escorted by fighter jets. But that's not all. Intelligence reports also suggest that Putin is so paranoid that he's constantly accompanied by a team of personal doctors. Most of us can't relate. Half of us haven't even booked a dentist appointment in years, but we keep meaning to. You go once, you keep telling yourself you'll book the next one before you even get home, and then somehow 2 years go by and you're Googling teeth hurt normal. ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. The Flying Kremlin is said to be just one of 4 identical presidential planes. Whenever Putin flies abroad on official business, the 3 clone aircraft also take off. They all follow different routes, making it difficult to track Putin's exact movements. But even this elaborate tactic has a weakness.
It's relatively easy to track an airplane, right?
This is Russian investigative journalist Ilya Rozhdestvensky. Living in exile, he works with the Dossier Center, a nonprofit investigative project.
There are dozens of websites like Flight Radar and all these sort of things that provide data on different airplanes.
Technically, each of these aircraft could be tracked and located, which means that in theory, a powerful adversary could target all 4 at once, which is exactly why Putin prefers his train. If you saw this train moving through Russia, you'd barely notice it.
It looks like a normal Russian train, gray with red stripes. There is probably very little chance that you would recognize it if you see it somewhere.
Look closer, and you notice a few oddities, like multiple diesel locomotives at the front of the train, and this small dome on the roof.
For the special communications, and that's probably it. That's the only thing that is different from the normal train.
It isn't a secret that Putin has his own special train. The Kremlin has even released images from its onboard conference room. But for a long time, no one knew what the rest of the train looked like. Until the Dossier Center released some highly confidential documents. These were allegedly leaked by an insider at Sircon Service, a Russian company specializing in manufacturing custom railway cars. The Kremlin allegedly tasked Sircon Service with building the cars for the presidential train.
It's not a very big business. There are not too many people who really want to spend their money to build a custom train.
According to the leaks, the train is heavily armored and bulletproof. That makes it so heavy that each car needs 6 axles rather than the standard 4.
Inside, wow, it's luxurious. It's really something incredible. This train provides Putin with anything he could possibly need. So there's a car where he can sleep, there's a car for work, there's a restaurant car.
One car is even said to house a fully equipped gym and a beauty salon soundproofed to prevent audio surveillance, complete with a massage table and a radio frequency machine designed to keep the skin firm. The Kremlin denies that Putin has ever used or owned a train car like this. Finally, there's a tiled spa area featuring a full Turkish steam bath and shower. Ilya says the ghost train doesn't appear on official timetables.
There is no way to track this train. If you work with a Russian railway company, you can still find some data about this train, but you need some special access to the internal infrastructure. So there is no way for normal people to understand that some special train is moving.
It simply speeds toward its destination, blowing right past any stations along the way. Apparently, it often does so on its own secret train tracks, which terminate at private train stations built just for Putin.
There are a couple of stations that they were built specifically for Vladimir Putin. So basically, they are near his palaces, official residences, houses. So I think there are like at least 3 of them. We know about one in Turkey, where his official residence is located, Bocharo-Prochey. One is not far from Moscow, in Novodareva. It's probably one of his main official residences.
Shout out, donate $3.
It appears that, a pretty scary transformation is now fully underway in the Democratic Party.
I don't think that Israel has played a bigger role in any district any more than in this particular district. The reason why Dan Goldman is in trouble is because of the issue of Israel. He is seen by many in that district as being too pro-Israel.
Well, there was a clean sweep.
Yeah, so it's college kids. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. I don't know why they're happy about a guy who is an insane anti-Semitic whack job and incompetent and a commie, but...
And the third one is in Valdai. That's his main place. That's where he and his family spend most of the year.
So at any given time, it's hard to say which of his official residences Putin is at. There's another meeting scheduled for today. Lately, Putin's been holding more video calls and making more addresses from the presidential office in Nova Ogaryova, especially since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Дамы и господа, почти 8 лет самыми варварскими методами нелегитимные решения по так называемой заморозке российских активов.
Many of these are recorded and released to the public. For Russians, the office in the presidential residence is instantly recognizable. The room, the table, the background. But wait. In footage of Putin's office, investigative journalists have noticed something peculiar. Take a look at this door handle, and then at these two. Notice how they're not the same height? The thermostat is also positioned slightly differently. Here it's centered, but here it's placed slightly to the left. In this one, it's slightly lower. The wall panels behind Putin are also arranged in slightly different ways. Other details, like the vents and the TV stands, are also inconsistent. It appears that Putin has had near-identical replicas of his office built in his residences in Valdai and Sochi.
The idea behind this is that Vladimir Putin prefers to stay, I would say, silent, probably. So he makes it look like he's in his office, in his official residence in Nova Ogaryova, and he records some video and makes some statements. And there is also some part of the statement where it's said that it's all happening in Nova Ogaryova, for instance. In fact, he could be anywhere. He really wants that only a limited amount of people knows exactly where he is.
If no one knows his real location, he's impossible to target. Still, reports suggest that since attacking Ukraine, Putin has been staying clear of his Sochi summer residence, out of concern over potential Ukrainian drone strikes. Reports even claim he's had the villa torn down. Putin seems to be growing increasingly paranoid. Maybe that has to do with his time as a KGB agent in East Germany. His work as a spy and the collapse of the GDR may have shaped his distrust of civil society and his fear of popular uprisings. To this day, he surrounds himself with an inner circle of former KGB associates. Or maybe he's aware of the hostility he attracts as the autocratic leader of a corrupt oligarchy waging a brutal war of aggression. Or maybe it's the idea that his political opponents are actively plotting to overthrow him, a notion Putin's own intelligence services often encourage. Or maybe it's that Ukrainian intelligence services operate deep behind enemy lines, and Ukrainian drones are a growing threat. Putin seems afraid. Afraid of attacks, of betrayal, and of losing control. More than ever, he seems to be isolating himself.
A lot of people would like to kill him. So there is some strong proof that probably he should care about his security.
During meetings, long tables keep his guests several meters away from him. His meals are prepared by personal chefs who use only ingredients they provide themselves. Before being served, each meal is tested for poison in a portable lab. When he travels abroad, Putin's bodyguards reportedly even collect his excrement, then take it back to Russia with them to prevent foreign powers from gathering intel on his health.
I'll tell you why, because they're fascists. Theme selves, that's why.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Do you have a lure lock on your tea vials? You mean my needles that I use? The needles use a lure lock. The vials do not have a lure lock. That wouldn't make any sense.
You can't just have this meeting with him and tell him everything he needs and discuss with him. He's not just a regular president of a regular country, right? He prefers to micromanage everything, and he believes that one of his resources, crucial resource for his power, is that he's the only one who makes all the decisions. So that is why the people who has an access to him, they're more powerful. The people that don't have this access, they don't have any power. And he is the source of this power. That's like his secret idea. Being isolated is one of the key elements of his presidency.
According to Ukraine's former head of military intelligence, Putin has no less than 3 body doubles. These men are said to have undergone plastic surgery to look just like him. Apparently, the only thing giving them away is their height, their body language, and their earlobes. The Kremlin denies these claims.
2 years ago, we had an interview with Gleb Karakolov. He was an officer and he was working in the security service, which is called Federal Guard Service. They provide protection for Russian president. He told us in this interview that, well, actually, there is no double, like a real double, but there was some kind of a cover operations. Colleagues of Karakolov, they took an airplane, they took the car, they put it someone who looked kind of like Vladimir Putin, and they made sure that everybody could see that the car goes to the plane, somebody leaves the car, goes to the airplane, and then this plane flies somewhere, for instance, to Moscow. But the real Vladimir Putin stays in Sochi and he does whatever he wants.
With or without doppelgangers, Putin operates within a system of maximum security. He travels in one of the most secure cars on the planet and moves along secret routes. He rides a ghost train and addresses the public from identical replicas of his office. And yet it seems like there's one thing all these measures just can't give him: a sense of safety.
Was seen as a red line few were willing to cross. The costs were deemed too high, the risks too unpredictable, and the rewards too vague. And while Trump's new deal with Iran has pulled both sides back from the edge, it has not removed the underlying problem. If diplomacy fails, either in the coming weeks or months, the next round of hostilities may not stop at missiles, sanctions, and naval pressure. At first glance, Iran seems like a natural fortress. Mountains encircle much of the country, while deserts, salt flats, and marshlands fill the spaces in between. An invading army would have to cross some of the most difficult terrains in the Middle East before even reaching any of the country's population centers. The Pentagon, however, would look for a workaround. Rather than driving deep into the interior, US planners would likely focus on Iran's southern coastline. This narrow strip of territory contains many of the country's most important economic assets, including oil terminals, commercial ports, and military facilities. It's also an area that is directly accessible from the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea, where the US Navy can operate with relative ease. But any attempt to seize
Gummy definitely dreams when he sleeps. Like, I've seen him.
Territory would immediately threaten regional stability, and what looks like a list of military options could just as easily become a list of political, economic, and military liabilities. The first mile into Iran may be measured in kilometers, but the next 100 would be measured in years. Before we continue, a quick word from today's sponsor, Obscura. Have you thought about how much of your online behavior can be observed? How much information you give up when you browse the web? Right now, the EU Caspian at checkout. Washington and Tehran are on talking terms again, but only because the alternative is worse. For America, that is not exactly a victory. The nuclear question remains unresolved, Israel remains deeply skeptical of the process, and Washington's credibility depends on whether pressure can still produce restraint. If the talks fail, Trump would face the same impasse as before: how to create leverage over Iran without marching on Tehran. One option, recently floated by US military officials, is to capture strategic locations and turn them into a new pressure point. 5 such places stand out: Karg Island, the Strait of Hormuz, the islands of Abu Musa, Greater Tunb and Lesser Tunb, the port city of Chabahar, and finally, the oil-rich Khuzestan region. Each of these sites offers access into the country, but interestingly, none offers a path to strategic victory. The first option, Karg Island, is the clearest example of how leverage can turn into liability. This small, isolated island is where 90 to 95% of Iran's crude exports pass through. Tankers line up offshore, load barrels of oil, and head to global markets. In every sense of the word, the island is a single point of failure. But Karg was never designed by choice. The thing is, the Persian Gulf is a shallow sea, especially along the coastlines. Oil tankers, being massive in size and weight, require a depth of 25 to 30 meters for safe navigation. However, some parts of the Gulf are too shallow for that. As a result, Iran extracts and refines its oil near mainland fields, but the crude is funneled through pipelines to Karg Island, where the water is deep enough for tankers to dock safely. For any US administration looking for real leverage, Karg may be the next best thing to capturing Tehran itself. Seizing it offers a way to inflict maximum damage without pushing deep into Iranian territory, but that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. An attack on Karg would not stay local. As Iran's primary oil export hub, any disruption would be felt far beyond its shores. Energy markets would react immediately, and the nearby Arab nations would brace for retaliation, as Iran would almost certainly look for ways to impose costs of its own. This, then, is the paradox of Karg. The very thing that makes it an attractive target is also what ensures that any attack on it would spiral into an international conflict. The second option, another high-profile target, is the Strait of Hormuz. Few places carry as much strategic weight, but exercising control over it is far more difficult than it appears. There is no single target that can simply be captured. Hormuz is a complex patchwork of waterways, islands, coastlines, and military positions. Any attempt to secure it would also require operations against the city of Bandar Abbas and the island of Qashm. These two are deeply embedded in Iran's defensive posture and cannot be bypassed. This then creates a fundamental dilemma. Holding the strait would require more than a one-time operation. Iranian coastal defenses, missile batteries, and naval forces would have to be continuously suppressed, which in turn would require American forces to maintain a long-term foothold in one of the world's most contested places. And Iran has more than enough firepower to make any operation there extremely costly. From the air, waves of rockets and missiles could sustain pressure day and night. At sea, hundreds of fast attack boats could close in quickly and overwhelm fixed positions with rocket fire. So, the instant the US Navy begins operations to secure the Strait of Hormuz, combat would spiral from a limited operation into a prolonged war with global economic consequences. The third option is a cluster of islands in the Gulf. With little appetite for another open-ended conflict in the Middle East, some policymakers periodically point to smaller, more manageable objectives. Abu Musa, Greater Tumps, and Lesser Tump are often cited in that context. These three small islands form a strategic gateway at the entrance to the Gulf, and some have floated the idea of capturing them. The US Navy could send the Marines, secure the islands, restore the airstrips, open corridors for reinforcements, and eventually establish forward operating bases with supplies coming from Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. That sounds like a clean operation on paper, but in practice, everything about the plan runs into the same constraints seen in the Strait of Hormuz. In the last round of hostilities, every fixed US position in the Gulf proved difficult to protect. Iranian strikes damaged radars, missile systems, and more. If those installations couldn't be secured, then an amphibious landing stands even less chance. To clarify, the United States could certainly seize the islands, but the real pain would begin after the landing. Given Iran's firepower, they could just keep the islands under constant attack and turn them into area denial zones. And the scale of that firepower is hard to overstate. Iran's coastline stretches for over 1,500 kilometers, with the Zagros Mountains rising just inland, providing both reach and cover for launch positions. And then there are the systems that haven't yet been used at scale, such as fiber optic drones. These are drones guided via physical cables rather than radio signals and are effectively immune to jamming. Some of these cables are 60 kilometers long, which is enough to cover every Iranian island. When launched in large numbers, these drones can overwhelm,
pretty sure Iran doesn't have anything like that,
and tear through any American contingent on the islands. The US Marines would essentially be sitting ducks. Gives it some accessibility, but Chabahar's and any foothold is...
This is a stupid fucking video. That sounded like it was put together by AI.
octopuses are smarter than people, like the young turds when they do amazing stuff like this. It's a shame. They only live for like 2 to 4 years.
Everyone is here looking for dinner. I'm looking for my next piano student. What I got for you. Maybe a bit too comfortable. What the fuck? He's super strong. Taco, what? Ah! Don't eat me. Don't eat me. Ah! On his jar for 5 minutes straight, just staring into the void, completely ignoring the key. Fun. And again, until we got the ultimate octopus key. And how did I know that? Oh, amazing grip. Whoa, that's good. That's good. Whoa, whoa. Good job, Taco. Here. This day I realized I have absolutely no idea how to approach the...
I've seen this video before. Yeah, octopuses are smart. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Yes, we'll get the...
JP, any tellers, Jack Symes is retarded.
I think if you want to have the uncomfortable conversation about Islam, it is sort of conducive to pedophilia. I mean, any
what planet
British
are you
men.
living on? I hate to pull rank at you and sound like a twat, but
Not a
both of my
conspiracy
PhDs
theory,
are in
it's
philosophy
called
of
the
religion,
Quran.
and I think I'm slightly more qualified to speak about the Quran than you are.
Yeah, if you read the Quran, it's okay to keep underage girls as sex slaves, so... I've seen this clip. I saw the Pierce Morgan thing this is from. This guy is just a liberal faggot.
We were supposed to be talking originally yesterday when the production team presumably got in touch with you as well. We're going to be speaking about Gaza and the moral catastrophe that's happening there. And for 2 weeks, it hasn't been discussed on this program. It hasn't been in the headlines. I think it's a real shame that we've pulled that really, really important discussion. I mean, I've been promoting Ian's book as much as anyone on this panel. So I'm more than happy to talk about Ian's book. I think we've got our priorities wrong. And I think, again, this is a problem not just with our politics, but in terms of our media. We were...
This guy's just a commie.
Hate chicken legs. Might be time to admit Dems are better on animal rights after this big Chad move from Schumer. The Save Our Bacon Act would have nullified state animal welfare laws/standards.
Okay. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Don't watch that channel, it's anti-Semitic and political correct. Don't watch that channel, it's anti-Semitic and political correct. Don't watch that channel, it's anti-Semitic and political correct. Don't watch that channel, it's say.
Thanks for the warning. Appreciate the donation. Don't watch Caspian Report. JP donated $2.
Is it extra to not touch receipts? Nope. Even though Andrew Tate said I was extra for doing this, there are multiple studies that actually show touching thermal paper receipts like this with bare hands can lead to measurable increases in BPA, a known hormonal disrupting chemical in the human body. Here's a study from 2014 looking at people handling receipts for 2 hours. 100% of people.
Yeah, those are like cashiers. Most people don't handle receipts for 2 hours or more a day. You might go to the store like once every few days. A lot of people don't even take their receipts.
People had measurable increases in BPA in their blood and urine after handling receipts. Here's another study looking at cashiers handling receipts all day long.
You're not a cashier, you're just a crack addict.
Significant increases in BPA in their blood and urine up to 2 to 3 times from handling all those receipts. And here's 2 studies from 2017 and 2018 that found the same thing. Handling thermal paper receipts leads to measurable transfer of BPA through the skin into your body.
No, it doesn't. Not if you only pick up one receipt one time in an entire fucking week.
If you value your hormones, touch thermal paper receipts as little as possible. I don't think it's extra.
You mean like a normal person who might only go get groceries or buy something once or twice a week?
I think it's just being healthy. Don't touch these. Just throw.
This guy really is desperate for content to make like fucking videos.
It's summertime. Did you know you can make your own sunscreen out of things you can eat? This is a zinc-based, tallow-based sunscreen that I made myself. I'll put a link to a video.
Yeah, literally every dermatologist has said his sunscreen is practically useless and it doesn't have the necessary technology to really adequately protect you from UV.
Where I show you how to make it in the description. Why would you use a chemical-based sunscreen that has things like oxybenzone in it, absorbed through your skin, excreted in the poop and the pee, endocrine disruption, known to lower testosterone in males and be
Buddy, you look like a starving crack addict.
hormonally disruptive in females, octinoxate, avobenzone, homosalate. All of these things are in chemical sunscreens that you are putting on yourself and your children, and they are absorbed through your skin into your body.
Like, I'm not even joking. I've literally seen homeless dudes with about the same physique. Like, he looks like he lost muscle recently.
You can make your own sunscreen and you can eat this. What's in here? Tallow, non-nano zinc, beeswax, and coconut oil. That's it. That's all that's in here. I put it on my skin before I surf. It's protecting my skin from intense UV rays in the middle of the day, and you can put it on your body everywhere. You can also add cacao to this if you don't want it to be that extreme white. I'll put a link to how to make this in the description of this video. Make your There's an ingredient in the bun of this Burger King Whopper that is banned across the world, but it is legal in the United States. The USDA and FDA allow up to 3 milligrams of potassium iodate in the bun. That can be over 1,000 micrograms of iodine. It's a flour oxidizer. It helps the gluten become more sticky and it speeds up the process of bread making, but it can also lead to excess iodine in the human body and cause thyroid issues.
No one has issues with excessive iodine. If anything, that's one nutrient that Americans tend to undereat, so who cares?
Like hyperthyroidism. Now, iodine is essential for proper thyroid hormone function, but you only need 150 micrograms of iodine per day. You could be getting over 1,000 micrograms of iodine in one single bun. What about other?
Oh no. What are the people who eat Burger King gonna do?
Other processed foods? I think the US needs to follow suit of these other governmental food safety agencies across the world and ban potassium iodate. Be careful of this, guys.
Yeah, that's your main concern when eating a fucking Burger King burger. Oh. That is just so outrageously stupid. I fucking... Dude, just YouTube is so annoying. Everything is so annoying.
Jasmine and Fat.
In minifig saga, Ben Schneider finally has lawyers who've entered an appearance on the civil file. Hallelujah. And what you can see is that they're already getting stuff done. Having the lawyers is already helping him out. And here we go. So he's got 3 lawyers, Scott Young, Melinda Bowen, and Haley Wynn. And
Reckless Ben is a retard.
they have started off with joint motion for modification of temporary restraining order and entry of preliminary injunction. So what this means is that they've already gotten in touch with BAM's counsel, and they have said, look, let's modify this TRO, let's cut it down, and this is going to allow Ben a lot more freedom. Let's have a look at what's proposed and what's in this. There's a few juicy details in here as well. So plaintiffs, BAM Franchising, Ammon McNeff, Matthew McNeff, Josh Johnson, Brandon Best, and etc., 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 jointly stipulate, along with the defendants, agree and move the court to modify the temporary restraining order entered on June 9th to convert such into a preliminary injunction and to vacate the hearing scheduled for June 30th in order to permit the parties to engage in settlement discussions and / or mediation following an exchange of relevant documents and other information. So, they've said, look, we're going to get rid of the TRO. We're going to make it a preliminary injunction, so it's going to be a bit more lasting. We're going to have some ongoing discussion. We're going to trade documents. This isn't really the discovery process, but as part of settlement, you may trade documents back and forth to establish claims or, refute things or whatever else. And so this is something that Ben Schneider's counsel is agreeing to, and you'll be able to see why. It really cuts this down and allows him to do things like put out number 3. Episode 3 should be coming out soon. So plaintiffs allege that they are suffering and will continue to suffer immediate and irreparable injury before this action can be fully heard, as set forth in the verified complaint and motion for temporary restraining order. Defendants dispute these allegations, intend to assert counterclaims against plaintiff, and contest plaintiff's entitlement to any relief, including but not limited to a permanent injunction. Okay, the most interesting thing here is the intend to assert counterclaims, because what that means is that Ben is going to say, look, I don't owe you guys any money. You owe me money. Pay up. Now, they don't lay out what those counterclaims are right now, and we may never find out what they are. If they're having settlement discussions, it is entirely possible they will come to some sort of confidential settlement.
JP, don't need $2.
The average pallet used to be 50 millimeters across. Today, it's 34 millimeters. Look at this guy's teeth. There's no dentist. These are not veneers. There's no tooth whitening. They're not even really brushing their teeth. They're not taking tirzepatide. This is...
They brush their teeth. Anybody that you see with clean teeth into adulthood brushes their fucking teeth.
Almost entirely due to the quality of our food. There was a guy in the 1940s named Weston A. Price. You ever heard of him?
No.
He was a dentist, studied indigenous populations all over the world, and he took stunning photographs. He wrote a book.
This is completely and utterly non-scientific. You can find people with fucked up teeth in these indigenous tribes, and you can find people with perfect immaculate teeth in Western societies. So this has an incredibly high risk of bias. He would just travel to a random village and photograph random people's teeth, and you have no idea if he cherry-picked people that he found were particularly good-looking or had particularly nice teeth. So this has nothing to do with any kind of science. This is a guy who just took random photographs of people and then made a bunch of assumptions.
called nutrition and physical degeneration. So if we want to look smacks, we just really need to return to the way that humans have eaten. And this predominantly has to do with the quality of the foods we're eating. When we activate muscles in our jaw, it triggers bone deposition because the muscles have to pull on the bone. When was the last time you actually chewed something that you had to really chew? A lot of us cut the tendons off of our steaks because it's too chewy, right? We need this today.
I ate raw broccoli as a kid and like other raw vegetables like carrots. I can guarantee you're going to spend a lot more effort chewing raw broccoli than you will chewing like a cooked steak. And I've never needed braces. Every time I've gone to the dentist, they ask me if I've ever had braces because they say my teeth are perfectly aligned.
Eggs, egg yolks, red meat, liver. These are how we start to naturally look smacks.
None of those foods require any degree of chewing.
These are the things.
Retard.
Don't make this mistake when you're shopping for sourdough bread. A lot of sourdough bread contains an ingredient you do not want to be eating. So sourdough bread is definitely better than regular bread, but most
It's not.
sourdough breads are made with enriched wheat flour. Enriched wheat flour contains folic acid. What is folic acid?
Oh no, an essential nutrient.
Folic acid is a synthetic form of folate. It does not occur in nature. And so this leads to unmetabolized folic acid in your body, in your blood, when you consume folic acid in supplements or in breads and in flours. In fact, studies show that 90+% of humans consuming supplements or enriched flours have unmetabolized folic acid in their body. It can lead to reduced immune function. It's actually associated with some cancers. Like colon cancer.
This guy found a cross-sectional survey where they acknowledge excessive folic acid exposure may relate to cancer risk. Could possibly. And that's enough for him to say if you eat bread with folic acid, it will increase your cancer risk. This guy has no epistemic standards. If that's the standard for determining cancer risk, then the meat he recommends eating causes cancer.
Cancers in some people, and it can lead to potentially issues with neurologic development in children or fetuses. We do not want to be eating folic acid.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's eating globs and globs of fucking bread every day.
So be careful when you are shopping for sourdough. The simple solution here is finding a sourdough from a baker that doesn't use an enriched flour. It should just have a wheat flour, water, and salt. That's it. Send this to someone.
That's great.
Oh, this is amazing. Look at these kids. Oh my God. This is in Denmark. We don't do this in the United States, but look, there are multiple
I can guarantee you kids play in the mud.
studies that show that basically being a little more dirty than we are in the United States with our super hygienic environment is good for kids' immune systems. There's this study which shows that kids who are exposed to pets or in daycare centers or grow up on farms have lower rates of asthma, eczema, and allergies. I think we're a little bit overly obsessive about cleanliness in the United States. We're washing our hands all the time with soaps that contain things like
Yeah, after you go to the bathroom and you wipe your ass, maybe just skip the hand washing. That's a good idea.
triclosan, which can be endocrine disruptors or can disrupt the gut microbiome. We are sterilizing every countertop. I believe in hygiene. I think that we should wash our hands, but I think it's good for kids to get outside. Maybe they don't need to get quite this muddy, but it's kind of incredible. And I bet that every single kid in this reel has an amazing immune system when they grow up with lower rates of allergies and all these things. So
yeah, great. Thanks for the donation, JP.
And we'll never get to find out what happened behind the scenes unless Ben Schneider feels like talking about it, which probably he won't be able to as part of the terms if it's a confidential settlement. So, carrying on here. Despite these differences, the parties have agreed to mediate this case, and in light of this, they jointly move the court to modify the temporary restraining order and, based therein, adopt such as a preliminary injunction in the form attached as Exhibit A, which we're going to go over. This isn't a huge document, but which is summarized as follows. So, 1, defendants agree that they, their affiliates, employees, contractors, agents, and representatives, and anyone acting in concert with them directly or indirectly, in person, remotely, or online, are immediately restrained from So these are the things that Ben can't do, and anybody associated with Ben. Making, transmitting, soliciting, encouraging, and/or facilitating death threats, bomb threats, or other threats of physical violence, and/or knowingly or intentionally engaging in property destruction, stalking, trespass, interference, extortion, personal injury, or property damage against plaintiffs, their independent franchisees, employees, officers, etc., 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 including family members. Now, you might be saying, why are they agreeing to this? Doesn't this sound like they're... No. Just because they're agreeing to be enjoined from doing these things doesn't mean that Ben is agreeing that he ever did these things. And this seems like a fairly reasonable thing. Like, hey, I can't post a bomb threat. All right, well, it's not that he's saying that he ever did make a bomb threat, but I'm pretty sure Ben has no interest in making bomb threats. Stalking and trespass are more key things there, so Ben's going to have to stay away. All right. Publishing or encouraging others to publish personal addresses, personal phone numbers, personal email addresses, family information, or other doxing information of any kind regarding plaintiffs, personnel, franchisees, owners, or employees. Now, this just makes sense, right? And keep in mind, don't hassle people. Don't involve yourself in this. This is already a giant mess. So do you want mess? You do not want mess. Stay out of this. A delivery, like, what do you mean? Like, why does he need a lawyer? Like, he's trying to show that you can do this without lawyers. You see how fast stuff starts to get, like, in this case, he really is accomplishing a fair bit by having lawyers who are coming in and able to get some of this stuff done. I'm sure the lawyers called the lawyers on the other side and were like, you know, this TRO is some bullshit, right? Like, and the other side probably went, yeah, let's just work on something that we can both agree on right now. Solves a lot of problems.
I can't even fucking look at this right now. Oh my god. The YouTube homepage is just fucking AIDS. Main donated $2.
Hi everyone, today me and man are getting married. Cause we love each other so much, and we're so similar. And after the ceremony, we're gonna eat donuts, and our friends are gonna come watch too.
I'm gonna go to bed now. I'm just too tired to fucking do anything. But big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. We'll do a workout stream tomorrow. I didn't end up training today. But I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks again. Sweet dreams.